All good things must come to an end. Nothing lasts forever, and we're starting to see that when it comes to prominent Nintendo leakers right now. Let's take a look at the recent Midori situation. I made a video talking about the Midori thing and basically saying not everything is as it seems with Midori. You should tread very lightly when it comes to their recent claims. And within 24 hours, the spiel of Midori was completely revealed. They were falsely representing themselves. It wasn't just one individual who people thought to be an Asian woman. It was actually a random white guy posing as an Asian woman posting on that account. There were multiple people running that account. I had a hunch that that was indeed the case, but I didn't want to come out and flat out say it because I didn't want to be an accusatory person. I was just telling you guys to tread lightly, and that is what ended up happening with that situation. Now Midori is completely gone. Of course, there's been people like Samus Hunter. I don't know why people ever listen to Samus Hunter. I mean, I was guilty of it at one point in time, but there was always one constant when it came to Nintendo related leaks. There was always one person you could always rely on, and there was lots of mystery surrounding this individual who was, of course, named Piaro. Now, Piaro's track record far exceeds those of other insiders and leakers when it comes to providing new game information, and many people theorized and wondered, how does this person know all of this stuff? How do they have all this sort of inside information? Are they an employee at Nintendo of America? Are they an employee at Nintendo of Japan? Do they have access to things that other people don't have access to? There was a large mystery surrounding the individual. But if you paid attention to the most recent Nintendo Direct and kind of the lead up to it, Piaro themselves was very quiet with this. They didn't really say much about what to expect. If anything, they said there wasn't going to be any sort of big announcements and to keep your expectations low. Now, big announcements can be a bit of a subjective sort of thing, but I do feel like even if you didn't love that presentation, there were some sizable things, like a new Mario and Luigi game. Like, whether or not you like that art style, which I think the jury is still out on that. Personally, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but that's a rather large announcement in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're looking at the history of this franchise. The fact that Alpha Dream, the company that was making these games for Nintendo, went out of business, and for many people, they thought that that was the end of this franchise. Of course, a new Mario Party game as well, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, But I mean, there was some good stuff there. And then, of course, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. So how did Piaro get all of this so wrong? And what is actually happening with Piaro right now? Well, like I said, the empire for these leakers is indeed crumbling, and Piaro has pretty much been completely exposed, and I wouldn't expect to hear another thing from them. This was actually done via an article done by Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. I'm not the biggest fan of Jason Schreier in the world, but he does some good stuff from time to time, and I thought this was a really good article, sort of chronicalizing what ended up happening with Piaro, and even some comments from Piaro himself, themselves. I'm not sure what gender they are or whatever, but the funny thing about that was Piaro was surprised that their answers given to Jason Schreier ended up in this article. They actually put out a tweet shocked to see their answers that they gave to Schreier in this questionnaire published in this article. And it kind of goes to show you, when you look at like the Midori situation, how that all unfolded, when you look at the Piaro situation, I almost feel like there's a bit of disconnect from reality with these people. Like, I don't think they're well socially adjusted individuals. If a journalist asks me a question, I would expect that to be a part of something. There's obviously a reason going in behind it. Even if they don't flat out say it, there's obviously some sort of reason why they're asking me a specific question. So in the article, it says the following, which I'll have a link to in the description box down below. Nobody knew Piaro's identity or how they got information, but as the account continued to predict new announcements with a perfect track record, they attracted a huge audience. The account gained more than 100,000 followers on X, Twitter, and inspired a series of threads on the large gaming forum Reset Era. Hi, Reset Era. But Piaro was uncharacteristically quiet ahead of the Nintendo Direct, saying that they didn't expect many big announcements. They were subsequently proven wrong when the company showed off new Mario, Zelda, and Metroid games. People wondered, how can an account with a perfect batting average suddenly get things so wrong? Then came a twist. Several observers, led by a Reset Era poster named D Game Master, began to realize that in contrast to previous announcements, these new surprises did not have pre-seeded web pages on Nintendo's store. They followed the breadcrumbs and realized that Piaro's previous leaks had all involved games that were set to go live on Nintendo's website as soon as they were announced. Games that were put up on the store after the Nintendo Direct were not leaked by Piaro in advance. It appears that Piaro had access to Nintendo's web backend, and the account's information was limited to what was available there. I reached out to Piaro to get clarity on this. Over direct messages, they told me that their source works for Nintendo of Japan, but I'm unsure how they obtain their information, and that the backend theory is a reasonable guess. So there's obviously a lot of things within that. What does all of this mean? Basically, kind of like those YouTube leaks. Remember how we talked about the YouTube back-end people who were looking at stuff and then potentially leaking stuff and information when it came to video game presentations? This is kind of that same situation. A person with knowledge of the back end of Nintendo's website could look at what was going to be posted and then give that information to Piaro, because I'm not really sure why. I don't really see the mutual benefit of them doing that, except maybe there's some sort of friendship there. Maybe they enjoyed seeing their friend Piaro become this online entity where people were gripping to their every word in anticipation to see what games were going to be announced next or revealed or get leaked. But now you have the whole conundrum and the situation here with Piaro basically saying that, yeah, it was a Nintendo of Japan employee, and yeah, that back-end stuff was probably it. You can obviously trace who was looking at things, look at IP addresses and stuff to see who was accessing websites during or before they go up live on a website. The fact that Nintendo completely curbed this and did not have any games go up previous to them being announced really shines a light on this situation, that this was the way the information was being obtained. Obviously, a game like Metroid Prime 4, you could have said, oh yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be there, get ready to get primed, just on, you know, the account that more than likely this game has to be there. It's a game that we've known about for several years. But a game like The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, a game like Mario and Luigi Brotherhood, these were brand new games. Nobody had ever heard of these before. Nobody really expected these games to happen. So what does this mean for leak culture in general, and where will people get this insider information that they so desperately cling to as far as, you know, knowing what's going to happen next? I mean, leakers in general will never go away. I mean, there's obviously many other people who just remain a bit more quiet when it comes to information. People like Nate the Hate, for instance. Nate has a very good track record. Whether you love the guy or not, he seems to know his stuff. He seems to have some decent connections. But it's never done in a definitive manner. He'll give you a breadcrumb here or there. He might talk about it on a podcast, but he's never definitively going to say, hey, this is what's going to happen, and this is when it's going to happen, and it's going to happen at this event. Because to me, a real leaker knows when to pick and choose their battles. A real leaker doesn't put everything out there immediately and then take a victory lap when it sort of happens, when you knew that this was going to happen prior. They're not going to show you all of their sort of cards. They're going to hold things closer to their chest because they have to know if their sources are leading them astray or not. But when you have back-end access to something, there's no question about it. There's no sort of, scrutiny to be done with the situation. You know that this is going to happen. You know that this is going to be at this event because there's a web page for it, a listing for the game, and you could look smarter than everyone else by providing this information. But at what cost? Nintendo's not exactly a company that sits down and just lets things happen. They don't like stuff like this. I'm sure they'll find out who that Nintendo of Japan employee is, whether it's PRO or someone he knows or not, and fire them. I'm sure that PRO is probably looking over his shoulder right now. There's been rumors that they're going to delete their Twitter account because I'm sure Nintendo has some questions to ask them if for some reason they're not able to trace who this Nintendo of Japan employee is. It's a very tricky situation, but at the end of the day, we're seeing an era of the decline in leakers, and really, I don't mind it too much. You know, to me, leaks are always just kind of rumors. Just some people seem to be better at them than others, but some people also don't talk about them quite as much as others. They like there to be some sort of surprise. They like to see people's anticipation, their theories. But when the information is being put out there and it's concrete information, does it take away from some events? There's a lot of people that don't like leak culture. As a YouTuber, I think it's cool, but I don't really try to focus on it all too much because some of these people you got to take with a grain of salt. I mean, look at Zippo. Anyways, guys, that's kind of the rise and fall of PRO and I guess by extension Midori. Let me know what you think of this situation in the comments section down below, and I guess let me know what you think about like leak culture in general. Like, do you like hearing about potential leaks and stuff that's allegedly going to happen at presentations, or do you like that element of surprise? Because there was a strong element of surprise with this Nintendo Direct, and I think everyone across the board was able to potentially enjoy it a little bit more, knowing that there was that mystery, knowing kind of what was not to be known. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.